Here with Cain Velasquez fighting Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, UFC 110 in February. When you first were approached with the fight, how'd you feel about it?
Felt good about it. I think it's just me working my way up the ladder, and he's one of the toughest guys out there right now, and he's been there out there. He's been at the top for a while, so I mean it's just it's an honor to fight him, and I feel like I'm ready, and the UFC thinks I'm ready too. So
It's been a long road for you to get a fight like this. When you first started out in the sport, a lot of guys wouldn't fight you. Can you tell us, some stories about that? Guys no showing at weigh-ins and so forth.
yeah, just I had 2 fights professionally, and then I wanted to get some more ring time around here. Just some local shows so I can work my way up to the UFC. And then we just had stuff where guys would show up at the wins, but then they said they would want to fight, or the shows would get canceled. So it was just little things like that made it hard for me to find fights.
Tell me about growing up in Salinas. What was that like? And also, what did your parents do for a living?
I was born in Salinas. I didn't grow up there. My parents were farm workers, so we pretty much, when I was like 2, we moved to Arizona, in Yuma, Arizona. So that's where I pretty much grew up. We pretty much worked the farms until until today. They still do the same kind of work, and life was good growing up. We grew up right next to Mexico. It was like 30 minutes away, so we would always make family trips down there on the weekends, and just kind of, our parents let me know that, this is where we come from. It's just kind of like family time of where they came from. So it was always good.
Growing up in a Mexican family parties, everyone always breaks out the boxing gloves and gets down that way. Does that ever happen at your family parties?
We had boxing gloves when we were little. My dad made a thing just for, we wanted them. We always watched boxing when we were little, so we wanted them. He has boxing gloves, and we would like box in the living room.
And now that you're a mixed martial artist, stand-up fighting is part of it. Do you ever watch the fighters, the Mexican fighters like Julio Cesar Chavez, and see what you could apply to mixed martial arts?
Any Mexican fighter that's fighting, I'll make it a thing to watch them. You got to support your people, and I mean it's just their style of fighting. It's just so exciting to watch. So I always make it a thing to watch them, regardless if they're fighting in the UFC, Strikeforce, or even just regular boxing. I make it a thing to watch them.
You get a lot of support because you're very vocal about brown pride on your chest and so forth. But you also get a lot of haters for that. Saying, well, why can't I say white pride? And so how do you respond to those kind of I want to call them allegations, but how do you respond to
that? For me, it was a thing of me growing up. I didn't have anybody to look up to. Nobody in the media that I could see that looked like myself. That was, in TV, in sport. The only people that we saw were in sports, and they were boxers. That was it. They weren't, football players. They weren't movie stars. So for me, I didn't have those dreams of growing up that, I could be that kind of person that one day. No, I didn't. And also, for all the things that my dad did to get to this country, he crossed the border 7 times, got, deported back 7 times. So, I mean, for him, it was a big thing to, to make it here. This is where he wanted to live. This is where he wanted to raise his family and, just have a better life for himself. And he wasn't going to, stop until pretty much, he did that.
What was that like for you as a kid, having your father taken away from you, 7 times?
He pretty much did that before I was born. He came back and forth before I was born. And, when I was growing up, I didn't really know until I kind of asked him when I was a little older, how was it growing up and just coming over here. And that's when he told me, and then that's really hit me,
Were you ever put off by that, or did you ever feel discriminated against as a kid?
Not discriminated against, I think, because where I grew up in Yuma, it was mainly like half white, half Mexican, the big Mexican population. So not discriminated against, but I always knew that we had a little less than others. Growing up, I always knew we were a little less fortunate as far as money and stuff like that. But it was all good because we had each other, and it was I just think we made the best of it. So.
Your last fight against Ben Rothwell was in Los Angeles, and there was a big Mexican and Latino community out there supporting you. How was that? How did that feel for you?
Felt really good. Just as soon as I walked out there, I just got like chills. When the whole crowd, I felt like the whole crowd was, for me, and it was just a great feeling to be playing the song. A tribute to my dad for him to, crossing over the border and just to have him there for that. I mean, it was a great honor.
And so, do your parents watch you fight?
They definitely watched my fight.
How do they feel about it? Are they scared? Are they really supportive? And how does that impact your training camp?
They're scared every time. They get nervous. I wouldn't say scared, but they get really nervous right before I fight. My mom's a little better now. I didn't think she would ever watch me fight, but she watches them, and she's always rooting for me. And my dad, he's my biggest fan. He'll watch the fights over and over again. After I fight, he'll watch like 100 times, just keep replaying it back and forth, and he'll pretty much make my mom sick, because he's always watching it. So.
What about your upbringing drives you the most in fighting?
What was that?
What about your upbringing drives you the most in fighting?
Just seeing my dad work his whole life. He's always been a hard worker. Both my parents have always been hard workers. My mom too. So just watching them, I just think I get that from them, and I apply it to whatever I do as far as sports or whatever. So I'm always known as a hard worker. I think I got that from them, and it's just how Mexicans are. We're hard workers. We put our heart into what we do, and that's what I feel. That's how I feel what I'm doing.
I've heard that you train 7 days a week. Is that true?
7 days. Sometimes I take Sundays off. But Monday through Saturday for sure, always.
Going against Nogueira, he's one of the best jiu-jitsu fighters, especially at heavyweight. How have you been working your ground game? Not just your wrestling, because that's your background, but the jiu-jitsu aspect of it, and preparing for what Nogueira is going to throw at you.
Just watch his film, and then just work a lot of submission defense. Be aware of what he does well, and we've done that. We watch film, and we're just kind of working this stuff over and over again, and just try to be best, prepared for the fight.
Do you have plans to bring in big jiu-jitsu fighters?
I think so. Nothing's confirmed right now, but we will bring him in pretty soon. Whoever we find as far as good jiu-jitsu guys.
Were you a fan of Nogueira? Because he's been fighting for a very long time before you got into the sport. Were you a fan of him, and do you feel intimidated going in there against a legend?
I don't feel intimidated. Being in the sport, you can't be intimidated when you go into a fight. And that's how I feel. But I've always watched him growing up, and I know what he's done, and he is a legend in the sport.
In your last fight, you were able to break down Ben Rothwell. You took him apart. Nogueira is a notoriously resilient fighter. Do you feel that you'll be able to break him down?
It all depends on how the plan goes out. In that fight, I pretty much got to fight, to my best ability, and I really can't give him anything because he's always in a fight no matter what. So I just got to go out there and just do my thing, work super hard, and to take the fight to him.
What's been your own evolution as a mixed martial artist coming in here day one? Javier Mendez, immediately saw a champion in you. Did you see that in yourself walking in here?
I didn't, just come in. I knew I wanted to do this, and I was going to put all my heart and soul into doing this and put all the time I could, as far as in training. And, I just felt that, like me putting hard work in, it just all come together, and it's all paying off, so it feels good.
If you beat Nogueira, you're likely in line for a title shot. Shane Carwin and Frank Mir are fighting for the interim title. Where do you see yourself in the heavyweight division? Do you see yourself jumping into that title shot right after this fight, or would you still like to take some more fights and gain more experience?
I don't know. Just take one fight at a time. Not looking past Nogueira, so all my focus right now is on fighting him and beating him.
You ever been in a street fight?
Yeah.
The other guy survive?
Yeah. Every once in a while, I feel like guys don't fight fair, so. It was I got in a street fight once with a couple of other guys, just pretty much helping out a friend. So.
Were you targeted because you were a bigger Mexican?
What was that?
Were you targeted because you were a bigger Mexican?
I was just helping out a friend, and he was in trouble. We help out our friends, and so it so happens that some other guys, beat him down. So I got to go in and help him.
Aside from you're talking about your family, this is the first time I've ever seen you smile. So what makes Cain Velasquez smile aside from your family and hitting people?
Everything makes me smile. I'm just a regular guy, so it all depends. Whatever.
And are you excited for this fight with Nogueira because it is the biggest fight of your career?
I am. I'm excited for it. I feel like I get more excited closer to the fight. So right now it feels like it's a little bit far away, a little bit of ways, and then I'm just kind of working and training hard right now.